Edgar Cayce on why some people feel a sudden calling before great change. You wake up one morning and something has shifted, not in the world around you, in you. A restlessness, a pull, a knowing you can't name but can't ignore. You lie in bed staring at the ceiling, and for reasons you can't explain, everything feels different. Not wrong, exactly, just different. Like the air pressure changed overnight. Like gravity weighs a little heavier on your chest. You go through your day, you do the things you've always done, but underneath it all there's this hum, this vibration, this whisper that won't quiet down. And within weeks or months, everything changes. A relationship ends, a job disappears, a door opens that you didn't know existed, a loss arrives, a calling becomes undeniable, and you realize, looking back, you were being called before the change arrived. You felt it, you sensed it. Your soul knew before your mind could grasp it. So here's the mystery we're going to explore today. Why do some people feel the summons before the door opens? Why does the soul sometimes wake up in advance? Why does restlessness arrive before clarity? This isn't coincidence. This is your soul communicating across time. And if you understand this language, if you can recognize the calling when it arrives, you can move through change with grace instead of shock, with preparation instead of panic, with trust instead of terror. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet who gave over 14,000 documented readings in a state of deep trance, left us a map. Encoded in his visions and teachings is a precise understanding of exactly why these callings happen, what they mean, and how they prepare us for the thresholds we're about to cross. He saw something that most of us miss, that the soul operates on a different timeline than the mind, that there's a spiritual clock ticking beneath the surface of ordinary life. And when that clock strikes a certain hour, the calling begins. You feel it as restlessness, as insomnia, as dissatisfaction with things that used to fit, as dreams that won't leave you alone, as a pull towards something you can't articulate. And here's the question that will frame everything we explore today. What if that restlessness you're feeling isn't chaos? What if it's the most intelligent part of you preparing you for what's coming? What if the discomfort, the very thing you're trying to fix or ignore, is actually the soul's way of waking you up so you can meet your next becoming with awareness instead of resistance? Stay with me, because by the end of this journey you'll understand not just why the calling comes, but how to recognize it, honor it, and walk through the gateway it's opening for you. Edgar Cayce didn't set out to be a prophet. He was a photographer, a Sunday school teacher, a quiet man living in Kentucky who, through a series of mysterious circumstances, discovered he could enter a self-induced trance and access information that seemed to come from beyond ordinary consciousness. Over 43 years, he gave more than 14,000 readings. People came to him with questions about health, relationships, past lives, purpose, and in that deep sleep state, he spoke. But here's what makes Cayce's work so extraordinary for our question today. He didn't just talk about the physical timeline of events. He mapped the spiritual timeline, what the soul knows before the body experiences it. Again and again, across thousands of readings, consistent patterns emerged. Patterns about soul calling, about pre-incarnate vows, about the way the soul prepares for major life thresholds long before the conscious mind has any idea what's coming. He described something that most spiritual teachers miss, that there's a lag between soul knowing and mind knowing, that your deeper self, the eternal part of you, operates on advance notice. It sees further, it knows sooner, it begins preparing you before the change becomes visible. This is the attunement principle Cayce taught. Every person has access to this same knowing. We all have the capacity to hear the soul's whisper. Cayce simply made it visible. He gave language to what we all feel, but can't always name. In reading after reading, he returned to this truth. The soul knows its own. The soul recognizes its own purpose before the mind grasps it. Think about that for a moment. Your soul knows its own. It recognizes what's coming because, at a level deeper than thought, it helped design what's coming. It agreed to it. It chose the very thresholds that will ask the most of you, not because it wants you to suffer, but because it wants you to become. And what Cayce discovered, what he made visible through those 14,000 readings, is that calling, that restlessness, that pull you sometimes feel, is the soul's way of aligning you with your own preset path. The discomfort isn't random, it's intentional. The restlessness isn't a problem to fix, it's a signal to follow. And if you can learn to recognize that signal, you step into something remarkable. The ability to meet your life's great changes, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a conscious participant in your own unfolding. Let me offer you a framework that will change how you see your own life. There exists a spiritual timeline that precedes the physical one. The soul sees further than the mind. According to Cayce's teachings, before you incarnated into this life, your soul reviewed what it needed to learn, heal, and contribute. It looked at the karmic patterns still unresolved. It saw the service it wanted to offer, and it mapped out key thresholds, moments where growth, healing, or purpose would activate, not as fixed destiny, not as punishment or predetermined fate, but as intended landmarks, as moments your soul circled on the map and said, "Here, this is where I'll be asked to transform. This is where I'll face my edge. This is where I'll be invited to become more fully myself." Now, here's where it gets interesting. The calling you feel isn't random timing. It's your soul's alarm clock. Weeks, sometimes months, before a major threshold arrives, the soul begins waking you up. It sends signals. It creates restlessness. It disturbs your comfort, not to torment you, but to prepare you. Because here's the paradox. You have free will, and the soul has already agreed to this initiation. These aren't contradictions. They're the same truth from different angles. Your soul chose the lesson, but you still choose how you meet it. The calling is the space between those two choices. It's the window where your conscious self catches up to what your soul already knows. Cayce called this the call before the gateway. The inner shift announces the outer one. Think about your own life for a moment. Think about the last major change you went through. A move, a breakup, a career shift, a loss, an awakening. Now, if you look back honestly, can you find the moment when the restlessness began? When something inside you started stirring before the external event occurred? That was the calling. That was your soul giving you advance notice, creating discomfort so you'd start paying attention, loosening your grip on what was about to change so the transition would be less violent. And here's the gift hidden in understanding this. If the calling comes first, that means right now, before the visible change, you're being given a window to prepare. You're being offered time to align, to listen, to release what needs releasing, to gather your strength, to attune to what's emerging. The calling isn't the crisis. The calling is the preparation for the crisis. And when you understand that, everything shifts. That feeling you can't quite name, that's the threshold. You're not past it yet. You're standing in it. Let me describe what this feels like, because I want you to recognize yourself in this description. I want you to know you're not imagining it, you're not making it up, and you're not alone. The threshold feels like restless sleep. You wake at 3 a.m. and can't get back to sleep. Your mind spins, not with specific worries necessarily, but with a low-grade hum of unease. It feels like dissatisfaction with things that used to fit. The job that was fine suddenly feels suffocating. The relationship that was comfortable feels lifeless. The city you live in starts to feel foreign. It feels like recurring dreams or symbols. The same image keeps appearing, the same conversation, the same feeling of being lost or late or unprepared. It feels like a pull towards something you can't articulate. You find yourself looking at new careers, new places, new possibilities, and you don't know why. You can't justify it. But the pull won't go away. This is the phenomenology of calling. This is what it feels like when the soul knocks. And I need you to hear this clearly. This isn't madness. This isn't spiritual ego. This isn't you being dramatic or self-indulgent. This is attunement to a larger pattern. Cayce observed across hundreds of readings that the calling typically arrives weeks to months before major change, not days. The soul gives lead time. It doesn't ambush you. It gives you space to prepare if you're willing to listen. Why does the restlessness matter? Because it's not meant to panic you. It's meant to align you. Each moment of discomfort is an invitation to pay attention, to ask, what is shifting? What am I holding on to that's ready to release? What part of me is being asked to evolve? The restlessness creates friction, and friction creates heat, and heat softens what's rigid. If you ignore the calling, the change still comes, but you'll experience it as disruption instead of initiation, as something happening to you instead of through you. But if you listen, if you let the restlessness guide you, you step into the change already awake, already aligned, already cooperating with the larger intelligence that's orchestrating your becoming. So right now, I want you to ask yourself, where do you feel this restlessness? In your chest, your gut, your inability to sit still? That sensation, that specific feeling in your body, that's the soul knocking. And the question isn't, how do I make it stop? The question is, what is it trying to show me? When the calling arrives, the soul doesn't just knock. It asks questions, not to punish you, not to shame you, but to prepare you. Cayce taught what he called the mirror principle. The calling acts like a mirror. It shows you what you've outgrown, what still calls to you, and where your next growth lives. And so the restlessness you feel isn't just sensation, it's inquiry. The soul begins asking, am I living aligned with my deepest values? What am I holding on to that no longer serves? Where have I stopped growing? What truth have I been avoiding? These questions rise up in the quiet moments, when you're driving, when you're lying in bed, when you're staring out the window, and they can feel uncomfortable, because they're pointing at the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. But here's what I need you to understand. There is no shame here. These questions aren't accusations. They're invitations. The soul asks because it loves you, not because you're broken. It asks because it sees the fuller version of you, the one waiting on the other side of this threshold, and it wants to clear the path so you can arrive. Every moment of discomfort the calling creates is actually the soul removing obstacles before the change arrives. Think of it this way. If you knew you were about to move to a new home, you'd start packing. You'd start sorting through what to keep and what to release. You'd start preparing. The calling is your soul's way of helping you pack. It's showing you what needs to go, what beliefs no longer fit, what relationships have completed their purpose, what identities you've outgrown. And yes, it's uncomfortable to see those things clearly, because letting go always is. But the discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something right. It's a sign you're listening. So as you sit with these questions, I want you to notice something. What resists the calling? What part of you wants to stay comfortable? What part of you wants to ignore the restlessness and go back to sleep? That resistance, that specific flavor of no, not this, not now, that's where your next growth lives. Not in the places that feel easy, not in the places that feel safe, but in the places that make you uncomfortable. Because discomfort is the soul's way of saying, there's something here you need to see. There's something here that, if you face it, will set you free. Here's something Cayce taught that changes everything. When the calling activates, guides intensify their communication. You're not alone in this threshold. You never were. According to Cayce's vision, every soul has guides, beings of light, teachers, loved ones who've passed, higher aspects of your own consciousness who watch over your journey. And when you enter a time of calling, when you're standing at a threshold, they lean in. They use synchronicity, dreams, people, and your own body as a language. And suddenly, the world becomes full of signs. Let me describe the 4 channels that intensify during times of calling. They become vivid, recurring, symbolic. You dream of journeys, of doors opening, of landscapes you've never seen but somehow recognize. Often these dreams show you the new territory before you physically arrive. They're not random, they're preparation. Your soul walking the path ahead of time. You think of someone and they call. You need an answer and a stranger says exactly what you needed to hear. You open a book at random and the passage speaks directly to your question. This isn't coincidence, this is orchestration. The universe responding to the questions your soul is asking. A friend shares their story and it mirrors yours. A mentor reaches out at the exact moment you need guidance. Even a stranger in a coffee shop says something that lands in your chest like truth. During times of calling, everyone becomes a potential messenger. Goosebumps when you hear something true. Tears that come from nowhere. Sudden clarity during meditation or while walking in nature. Your nervous system recognizes truth before your mind does. Your body is a receiver, tuned to the frequency of your soul's guidance. Why do guides intensify their communication now? Because you're asking the deeper questions, because you've entered the threshold, and because the more you pay attention, the more receptive you become. Guidance was always there, but now you're listening. Now you're watching for the signs, and when you watch, you see. Each sign is a breadcrumb. Each synchronicity is a confirmation. Each dream is a map. And if you follow them, if you trust them, they lead you to the exact threshold you need to cross. But here's the paradox. You don't have to follow. Free will is always yours. You can ignore the signs. You can dismiss the dreams. You can rationalize the synchronicity away. But notice how you feel when you do versus when you resist. Notice the relief when you trust a sign. Notice the expansion. Notice how something in you relaxes and says, yes, this is the way. That feeling, that alignment, that's your soul confirming you're on the path. Now we go deeper. Into the Akashic Records, into the pre-incarnate realm, into the agreements your soul made before it arrived here. Cayce taught that before you incarnated into this life, you stood in what he called the Hall of Records. You reviewed your soul's journey. You saw the patterns you'd carried forward, the lessons still incomplete, the gifts you wanted to offer, and you set specific intentions. You said, at this moment in my life, I will feel an awakening. I will be disturbed from my comfort, and I will use that disturbance to align with my purpose. This is the pre-incarnate vow. This is the agreement you made with yourself. And the calling you feel now, that's the soul honoring its own promise. Let that land for a moment. The restlessness isn't punishment. It isn't random. It isn't evidence that something's wrong. It's love. It's your soul keeping its word to itself. It's the part of you that exists beyond time, reaching through the veil and saying, remember, remember why you came. Remember what you're here to do. This reframes everything. When you recognize the calling as intentional, not random, your relationship to it shifts from resistance to cooperation. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what am I being prepared for? You stop fighting the discomfort and start listening to it. Because the discomfort is data. It's your soul showing you where you've drifted off course, where you've settled for less than your truth, where you've let fear make your decisions instead of love. And here's something else Cayce revealed about the records. They show patterns, past lives, times you've answered a calling and transformed, times you didn't and what happened. This life isn't isolated, it's part of a continuum. The calling you're feeling now echoes callings you've felt before, in other lives, in other forms. And each time, you had the same choice: walk through the gateway or turn back. Understanding this helps you grasp something profound. You're not being disrupted. You're being called home to your true path. The discomfort you feel isn't chaos. It's course correction. It's the universe and your own soul conspiring to bring you back into alignment with why you came. Souls don't experience one big awakening. They move through cycles: calling, initiation, integration, peace, new calling. Cayce recognized this pattern across lifetimes. Growth isn't linear. The soul spirals. It returns to similar themes at deeper levels. And here's what this means for you right now. You've felt this before, maybe not consciously. Maybe you can't remember the details, but the resonance is familiar. That's why the calling feels both new and old at the same time. That's why there's a strange comfort buried inside the discomfort. Your soul recognizes this threshold. It's done this work before. It knows how to transform. In previous lives, you faced similar crossroads, similar moments where you had to choose between comfort and growth, between the known and the calling. And some of those times, you chose growth. You walked through, you transformed, and the soul remembers. That memory lives in your body, in your nervous system, in the way certain moments feel like déjà vu. This is pattern memory, and it's a gift, because it means you're not starting from zero. You're not as lost as you think you are. Somewhere deep inside, you know this path. You've walked versions of it before, and the part of you that's eternal, the part that remembers, it's guiding you now. But here's something even more mysterious. Every person you'll meet in the next chapter was also called to meet you. The change isn't happening to you in isolation. It's a coordinated awakening. Think about that. The people who will enter your life after you cross this threshold, they're being prepared too. They're feeling their own restlessness, their own calling. And at the exact right moment, your paths will intersect. This is the web of connection Cayce described. Souls don't move alone. They move in clusters, in soul groups, orchestrated by a larger intelligence that knows exactly when each person needs to meet the other. And all your previous struggles, the ones that felt pointless at the time, they're actually curriculum. They were preparing you for this exact moment. Every heartbreak taught you resilience. Every failure taught you humility. Every loss taught you surrender. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. It was all building toward this, the moment when you'd be asked to step into the fullest version of yourself, and you'd have the exact tools you need to do it. Now we arrive at the core, the gateway, the moment of choice. Because here's the truth. Cayce never sugarcoated. The calling doesn't force you. It presents an opportunity, but you still choose. On one side of the gateway is comfort, familiarity, the known, the life you've already built, the identity you've already claimed, the safety of predictability. On the other side is growth, uncertainty, and alignment with your soul's purpose. And crossing costs something. Relationships may shift. Some people won't understand. Some will pull away. Because when you change, the relational ecosystem around you has to recalibrate. Identities may dissolve. The version of yourself you've been showing the world, the roles you've played, the masks you've worn, they might not fit anymore. And letting them go can feel like dying. Certainty becomes possibility. You step from solid ground into open air, and there's a freefall period where you don't know who you'll be on the other side. Cayce was honest about this. He said, "Not everyone who feels the calling answers it. Some people spend their entire life negotiating with the restlessness instead of walking through it. They bargain, they compromise, they take one step forward and two steps back, and there's no judgment in naming that, because the fears that keep people from crossing are real and valid. Fear of the unknown. What if I fail? What if I'm wrong? Fear of losing identity. If I'm not this, who am I? Fear of who you'll become. What if the person on the other side of this change is someone I don't recognize? Fear of disappointing others. What if the people I love can't accept the new version of me? These fears are not weaknesses. They're human. The soul doesn't shame you for hesitating. It waits. It keeps knocking, but it waits. The deeper choice here isn't stay small or become big. It's, do I trust my own soul's wisdom about what I need? Because the calling isn't coming from outside. It's coming from the deepest part of you, the part that loves you enough to disturb you, the part that knows what you're capable of, even when you've forgotten. And here's what happens if you cross alignment. The pieces click into place. The things that were driving you underground, your gifts, your truths, your deeper knowing, they become the fuel for your work. Relief. The restlessness quiets, not because the journey is over, but because you're finally walking in the right direction. Purpose. You understand why you're here, and that understanding gives your life weight, texture, meaning, but the calling can whisper forever. Only you can walk through the door. Only you can say, yes, I trust this, I trust myself. I trust that the discomfort is worth it. I trust that what's waiting on the other side is more true than what I'm leaving behind. You don't have to wait for the door to fully open. You can begin walking toward it now. Let me offer you 3 aligned practices, simple, daily, embodied, that will help you prepare for the threshold you're approaching. Listen inward daily. Set aside 10 minutes, just 10, in silence. No phone, no distractions. Sit with yourself, breathe, and simply listen. You're not trying to figure out your entire future. You're not trying to force clarity. You're just listening for what the soul is whispering today. Maybe it's a word, an image, a feeling, a knowing. Write it down. Don't censor. Don't analyze. Just receive. This daily practice of listening builds the muscle of attunement. It helps you recognize the soul's voice so that when the bigger moments come, you already know how to hear. Follow small intuitions. The soul speaks through impulse, through pull, through sudden knowing. If you feel called to reach out to someone, do it. If a book jumps out at you, read it. If you feel the urge to change something small, your morning routine, your environment, the way you spend your evenings, honor it. These micro movements might seem insignificant, but they're not. They're alignment in action. They're you saying yes to the soul's guidance in real time. And each small yes builds trust. It shows the soul you're listening. It shows yourself you're capable of following the calling. Release what's ready to go. Cayce taught that callings come with a clearing phase. Something needs to end, so space opens for the new. What in your life is asking to be released? A belief that no longer fits? A relationship that's completed its purpose? A job that's become a cage? A habit that dulls your aliveness? Listen without shame. The soul isn't judging you, it's just showing you what's ready to be composted so new growth can occur. And release doesn't always mean dramatic action. Sometimes it's an internal letting go, a shift in how you hold something, a loosening of your grip. But when you release what's ready, you create space, and the calling rushes into that space with clarity, with opportunity, with the exact next step. One more practice, learning to sit with discomfort. When the restlessness rises, when the calling knocks, your first instinct might be to fix it, to distract yourself, to make it go away. But what if instead you sat with it? What if you breathed into it? What if you let it be there without needing to solve it? The calling is communication, and communication requires presence. If you're always running from the discomfort, you miss what it's trying to show you. So practice this. When the restlessness comes, pause. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe slowly and say, I'm listening. Show me what I need to see. You're not waiting passively. You're actively preparing yourself to step into the life you're being called toward. If you've recently gone through major change, job loss, relationship ending, health crisis, relocation, spiritual awakening, I want you to hear this. That calling you feel now probably started months ago. Maybe you didn't recognize it at the time. Maybe you dismissed it as stress or anxiety or restlessness. Maybe you tried to push through it, ignore it, fix it. But looking back, can you see it? Can you see the moment when something inside you started stirring, when the discomfort began, when the soul started knocking? What felt like chaos wasn't chaos. You were being called, and the change that shocked you, that felt like it came out of nowhere, was actually the answer to a question your soul asked in advance. This is the reframe I want to offer you. You weren't blindsided. You were being prepared. The soul gave you advance notice. You felt it, even if you didn't understand it at the time. And now, looking back, maybe you're thinking, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have trusted the restlessness sooner. I would have prepared instead of resisted. And that's okay. That's human. It's okay if you resisted. The calling still worked. The change still happened. The soul has patience. But now you know. Now you can see the pattern. And that recognition, that ability to look back and understand, is its own form of peace. Because you can finally stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start seeing, this was always part of my path. The job you lost, it was making you small. The relationship that ended, it was preventing your growth. The crisis that shook you, it was waking you up. None of it was punishment. All of it was initiation. And this change you've been through, it was necessary. Your soul knew, and now you know too. So I want to bless this for you. The change you resisted, the threshold you crossed, the old life you released. It was sacred. It was your becoming. And you're on the other side now, more aligned, more true, more yourself. And here's the gift. Now that you understand how calling works, you can consciously choose how you'll answer the next one, because the calling will come again. Growth is cyclical, and the next time you feel that restlessness, that pull, that whisper, you'll recognize it, you'll honor it, and you'll walk through the gateway with awareness instead of resistance. If you're feeling that restlessness right now, I want you to know, this is not a sign that something is wrong. This is a sign that something is beginning. The insomnia, the anxiety, the sense of not fitting, the pull toward something undefined. These are all normal expressions of the calling. You're not broken. You're not losing your mind. You're not being dramatic. You're being called. And your soul is loving you into alignment. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Becoming always is, because the calling asks you to release what's known and step into what's unknown. It asks you to trust before you have proof. It asks you to move before you can see the entire path. And that's terrifying. Of course it is. But here's what I need you to hear. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to know what's coming. You only have to trust that you're being guided. The restlessness you feel, that's guidance. The discomfort, that's preparation. The pull towards something new, that's your soul showing you the way. You don't have to force the door open. You just have to keep walking toward it. And right now, I want you to do something with me. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a slow breath. And imagine your future self. The one who has walked through this threshold. The one who has integrated the change. The one who is living in alignment with the calling. That version of you is real. It already exists in potential. And it wants to speak to you now. What does your future self want to tell you? What does it want you to know about this moment you're in? Maybe it's saying, trust this. I know it's hard, but trust it. Everything you're feeling is preparing you for something beautiful. Maybe it's saying, let go. Stop trying to control the outcome. The path will reveal itself when you need it to. Maybe it's saying, you're not losing yourself. You're becoming more fully yourself, and I'm waiting for you on the other side. Listen to that voice. That's your soul. That's the part of you that knows. And when the fear rises, when the uncertainty feels overwhelming, come back to this. You're not alone. You're being held. Guides are with you. Your soul is with you, and the calling itself is proof that you're ready. You're not losing yourself. You're becoming more fully yourself. The change is terrifying because it's real, and it's necessary, and it's beautiful, and you are more ready than you know. Now we return to the deepest layer, the foundation beneath everything we've explored. Why does the soul call? Why does it disturb your comfort? Why does it create restlessness? Why does it ask you to walk through thresholds that terrify you? Cayce taught that all calling ultimately serves love, love of self, love of others, love of purpose. The calling isn't about achievement. It's not meant to make you rich, famous, or powerful. It's not about external success or validation. It's meant to make you true. It's meant to bring you into alignment with the deepest love you carry, the love that brought you here in the first place. When the soul calls you toward change, it's asking, will you love yourself enough to become who you're meant to be? Will you trust love enough to leave comfort? And here's the paradox that makes this both terrifying and beautiful. The callings that feel most terrifying, the ones that demand the most sacrifice, are often the ones most aligned with your deepest love. Leaving a job to pursue service, ending a comfortable but lifeless relationship to find authentic connection, moving to a place that calls your spirit, stepping into visibility when you've spent your life hiding. Each one is love in action. Each one is the soul saying, I love you too much to let you settle. I love you too much to let you stay small. I love you too much to let fear make your decisions. And so it calls, again and again, until you answer, not because it's impatient, but because it knows what you're capable of. It knows the life that's waiting for you, and it loves you enough to disturb you until you claim it. Cayce made this promise across thousands of readings. When you answer the calling from a place of love, not fear, the universe reorganizes to support you. Things flow, doors open, people appear exactly when you need them, resources arrive. The path reveals itself one step at a time, not because you're special, but because you're aligned. Because when you move in the direction of your soul's deepest yes, you move with the current of life itself. You stop swimming upstream, you stop forcing, you start flowing. And flowing doesn't mean passive, it means trusting. It means taking action from alignment instead of anxiety. It means listening to the whispers instead of waiting for the shouts. The calling isn't external. It's your soul loving you into becoming. And when you recognize that, when you see the restlessness not as punishment but as love, resistance becomes cooperation, discomfort becomes sacred, and you move through change not as a victim of circumstance, but as a conscious co-creator of your own becoming. Every person who's ever done something remarkable answered a calling when it came. Every transformation began with a whisper before it became a storm. That whisper, it's yours now. It's calling you toward love, toward alignment, toward home.